Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining into our Bachelor of Science in Nursing information session this afternoon. We really appreciate all of you taking the time to come join us online. It's certainly a lot easier than all of you having to drive to the Burnaby campus like we used to do. So thank you again for joining us. My name is Erin Ruggieri. I'm one of the marketing coordinators at BCIT School of Health Sciences, and I will be moderating today's session. Our main presenters will be Shelley Fraser, our Associate Dean of Nursing, and we'll also hear from Maninder Desi, our Program Advising. Answering questions on the chat will be Jessie Taylor, Lorene Martin, and Dina Bedard, all from Program Advising and the Nursing group. So we're going to have a lot of opportunities for questions, answers, and a lot of information to give you guys today. So for questions, if you could please remain muted throughout the presentation and type any questions you have into the Q&A button that should be at the bottom of your screen or the top of your screen, depending on how you've got set up on your end. Please remember that you can type questions into there at any point during the presentation, but many of your questions might actually be answered through the course of what we're going to say, so keep that in mind as well. And we'll try to answer as many questions as possible today. If we can't get to you, we will give you email addresses and contact information at the end for further questions and further information. I'll go to my next slide here. So before we get right into it, I'm going to read our land acknowledgement. The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam. So our agenda for this afternoon, we're going to have the welcome and introductions that I'm doing right now. And then we're having our presentation and program overview from Shelley Fraser. Program Advisor Maninder is going to speak. And then we'll have time for our Q&A section. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Shelley.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. And as Erin stated, we normally do this in person, and I can see the potential students, and it's always such a pleasure to meet you in person. This year it's virtually, and I'm also excited to be here, and we will try to give you as much information as possible to the 215 that are online, and that is great to see. Nursing has always been a passion for me, and it's so good to see so many people excited about potentially entering the profession. So I wanted to just give a context, a few comments, and I know probably the point you want to get to is my colleagues who will present on the prerequisites and the details of getting into the program. But I just want to spend a few minutes talking to you about the profession of nursing, because some of you out there may be contemplating a few different career paths in health education. And so I really want to sort of give to you, describe what characteristics and attributes I think are important to consider when you're contemplating a career in the profession. But I won't take too much time, and we will get to the admission requirements so that you're fully informed on that front as well. So this slide that you're looking at now is our campus, and the Bachelor of Science in Nursing is located on the Burnaby campus. Of course, this was taken on a sunny day, but it is a beautiful campus. It has lots of nice gardens and places once the pandemic is over for people to gather, and it really does feel like a community of students. So I wanted you to know that. And if we can advance the slide, Erin. The other exciting thing that I'll highlight right off the top, because it's foremost in my mind, is this picture. So when we talk about what is a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, it is a degree program, but a really exciting thing is happening within our program at BCIT. And this is architect's depiction of our new health science building. So if you're driving down Willington in Burnaby and happen to look, you'll see a crane, and right out my front window, I can see the top level of the building going up. It's a 4-story state-of-the-art building, which will be our simulation center for the School of Health Sciences. So as nursing students, you'll have access to the latest equipment in virtual simulation. And the really exciting thing is that you'll be working alongside colleagues in other health professions, diagnostics, lab tech, all kinds of things. And that's the setting that you're going to go into once you graduate. So we're simulating that interprofessional professional care in our new building that we move into in March of 2022. So many of you may be applying for a September cohort or a January, but no, very soon we'll be moving into this lovely building. So I'm really excited about that. And I'll get you to advance the slide, Erin. So to start off, because our program is really learner-centered and engaged, we're going to start with a poll. And the poll question, I'll get Erin to pull it up before we get into the quick facts. So which post-secondary in BC graduates the most nurses each year? UBC, Langara, BCIT, or Douglas College, all excellent schools, but who produces the most grads? Yes, 88%. The audience has done its research. In fact, yes, it is BCIT, and we graduate 192 students a year that go into various careers, and it's a main supplier of the workforce in healthcare, so we can be very proud of that. And a good majority of those that graduate already have jobs once they graduate and enter the profession. So thanks for that poll. A few other quick facts about the BSN that I think it's important for you to know. We are a 3-year program, and we offer 3 terms per year. So there are intakes in January, in April, January, April, and September. And the program is based on a mixture of both classroom learning, which has all been pivoted to online format during the pandemic, but we still do in-person lab. So students do come to the campus. They're able to use the simulation and open lab. Their instructors meet them there, and they run through scenarios to improve their practices. And then we also do clinicals starting in term 1. So right now, during the pandemic, the term 1 students are doing online modalities, but normally they go right into clinical, which is great. So within a few weeks of starting the program, you're already mixing with health authorities at different sites and starting to socialize into the profession, which is a bit different than some of the other schools. We have a lot of different experiences across the program, and you'll learn more about that once you enter in. We do placements in hospital settings, which is probably fairly intuitive for you, but we also have placements in home care, in public health. We're investigating upcoming placements in primary care and even global health. So continually to evolve and look at what industry needs and align our goals and learning intentions so that students are completely prepared to enter the profession upon graduation. We also have a big focus on leadership, and students partake in a lot of projects that bolster their leadership, and they work collaboratively with their peers in many of their assignments in clinical. So you really graduate. Many of our graduates have taken positions of leadership across the province, and I engage with them on different committees now, and so proud to see the work they're doing post-graduation. And finally, we do have an RN licensing exam. It's called the NCLEX, and everybody entering the profession has to write it. And the pass rate this previous term was 98%. So the curriculum is preparing our students well for graduation, and they're showing really positive signs of success. And I'll get you to move on to the next slide. So what attributes are we looking at as we're preparing graduates to enter the profession? And these are the ones that are part of our curricular framework. So we promote these all the way through the program, and you can see them here on the screen. And I think this is somewhat what you'll find once you graduate and enter the profession of nursing: professionalism, leadership, advocacy on the behalf of patients, disenfranchised groups, others, collaborator, so we believe in teamwork. It's really important to us. Global citizen, and we have a very specialized global health course that's offered in the first year of the program. That's really a very, very interesting program, and a lot of good feedback on that course. It's a little bit different. We also expect lifelong learners. So although you begin your journey, and it is a hard program and it's a lot of work, we as professional nurses continue to learn post-graduation, and I'll talk a little bit about specialty education in a few minutes. And we also believe in communicators, which is very important. So as you're pondering, thinking about applying to the program, think about the attributes. Does this fuel a passion in you? Does this something that you want to pursue? Are these characteristics things that you can get behind? Because that's what probably the expectation will be through the program and once you graduate. And I think we can advance to the next slide. And these, again, sorry, I thought we had a poll, but it's a little bit, one more slide away. What makes a successful BSN student? It is a stressful and it's a fairly intense curriculum. So you need to come in knowing that you have to be able to manage your stress. You have to be able to look after your well-being and manage anxiety effectively. That's sort of a skill set that's really important. Again, I spoke about effective communicator, hugely important. Leadership skills help, but we also work to build those across the terms. Experience working on a team is an asset, whether that be a sports team, a church group, any kind of team where you're collaborating with others. Aptitude for math and science. It is a science-based degree, so there would be an expectation that you have certain prerequisites, and I'll leave that to my colleagues to talk about in a few minutes. And then related volunteer or work experience is important. Now, we recognize that with the pandemic on, volunteer work is difficult, particularly in health fields. So don't stress about that. We understand it's not easy to come on board and get volunteer positions because of the situation with the pandemic. So we can answer questions, but know that all of the students applying are in the same predicament. So we understand that. I think we can advance the slide. And we have one more poll to do, so I'll ask Erin to pull up the poll on this page. And this one is, how many nurses are there in the province of BC?
So Shelley, how close are we?
Well, we're close second. I think it's closer to 35,000, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's growing percentages even every year. So you were close, 31% of you came on. And sorry, 47%. It's a little higher than 25. So we're about 36 or 37,000 when we look at the whole discipline, and it is growing per year. So thanks for that. And what are the career outlook for nursing? And I have to say, I see it being hugely positive. Last year was the year of the nurse as designated by the World Health Organization. I just mentioned that because I think globally, people see nurses being in a position of leadership to influence health, and that's at a very high level. So the career aspects are really positive. We're in demand worldwide. BCIT grads work globally. Of course, during the pandemic, that's been somewhat limited, but there's endless opportunities. And I think it includes career growth in numerous different backgrounds, in different capacities, and includes pursuing higher education. I know you don't want to hear that now, but lots of opportunities for master's and doctorate work, specialization in research or administration, that type of thing. And I'll get you to advance the slides. Just a couple more slides and then I'm going to turn it over. And I think I talked about this, lots of opportunity for different settings and different focuses of practice. And the next slide. Yeah, so that's a little bit about our program, but I do want to talk to you about my colleagues' program, which also is at BCIT, and they weren't able to be here today, but the associate dean of that program, his name's Kathy Kennedy, and they have a fabulous staff that runs what we call specialty nursing. And specialty nursing is opportunities that you can start at the very end of your BSN program. So there is opportunity about the end of your second year to say, you know what, I'm throwing my hat in the ring. I really want to be an obstetrics nurse or a pediatrics nurse or an OR nurse. And you can start to do some online education and focus your practicum in one of these areas. And what that prepares you is to begin work in this specialty post-graduation. Now, that's not for everybody. That's for some that really feel like they know what they want to do. Others want to continue and graduate as generalists and then perhaps pursue these opportunities post-graduation. Because the good news is, and I came from the health authorities, many health authorities will continue to pay for your education as new grads or as practitioners. So you don't have to do it in the BSN, but you can. So these are the specialties we currently offer, and they're numerous. And you'll find many of your colleagues, you'll graduate as a generalist in the BSN program, and then perhaps you'll come back and do a specialty. And many of the health authorities pay both your salary and the tuition fees for you to complete these in-demand areas. And so I'll just let you kind of look at the screen and absorb that. And I think this just speaks to the opportunities as a profession. And I'm just talking about a slice of the pie. So I am going to wrap up now because I know you want to get to the interesting part of admission requirements and you probably have many questions. But I encourage you to consider BCIT. I'm so proud to be the Associate Dean at this school. And I think we have a wonderful curriculum. And so thank you for your time today and spending a few minutes to speak on it.
And thank you, Shelley. But before we get to Meninder Program Advising, we just do have one testimonial I wanted to share from one of our recent students. I don't know if she graduated this past term or is graduating this coming term, but Jenna said, it took me some time to decide nursing was the right fit for me, but I'm so happy about my decision. Nurses make such a difference in people's lives, and I've been able to witness the difference they make firsthand throughout this pandemic. Nurses are out there saving lives, fighting this virus, and keeping us all safe. I feel really inspired to help make a difference and validated in my decision to pursue a career in nursing. My experiences in the BSN program at BCIT have prepared me to work when I graduate and tackle unexpected challenges that will surely come my way. I feel confident that the skills and knowledge I've acquired during my time at BCIT will serve me well when I leave. We really appreciate Jenna sending us that. And now I'm going to pass it over to Meninder, who is going to talk to us about admissions. And Shelley, I'm sure your part was just as interesting as Meninder's is too. So no judgment on either of you. You're doing great. Meninder?
I was just going to say that, Shelley, that was very informative and very valuable information that's not necessarily out there. You know, you have to do your research to get some of those answers. And so to really get a good understanding of all the different types of opportunities that are out there for you, not just some of the regular ones that we know for Bachelor of Science nursing graduates. So thank you, Shelley, for that information. So as Erin mentioned, my name is Meninder and I'm one of the program advisors at BCIT. I have a feeling I've probably spoken to some of you that are online this afternoon. So it's great to see a number of you here to learn more about our program and to get a better understanding of the entrance requirements. So I'm just going to be providing an overview on the application admissions process. And then I'm going to finish off with giving you some information on the different student services available to you at our school as well. Next slide. So Shelley had mentioned we offer 3 intakes in the year, and these are our intakes of September, January, and April. We have separate application processing periods for each of them. We don't keep a waiting list, and I saw earlier there was a question about a waiting list. So we don't keep a waiting list from one intake to another. If you're not accepted into the intake that you've applied for, you would have to reapply for the next intake. So it's not based on a wait list. You have a competitive chance in every particular intake. Now, as you can see here, we started accepting applications for our September intake as of February 1st. And I know there's been a lot of students who are keenly getting their applications in, but I do want to let you know that February 1st is the first day to apply. You do have until the 15th of March. Not that I'm recommending you wait till then. I do highly recommend you apply earlier than that date. But what I do want you to know is that it is not on a first come, first served basis. So the date that you apply does not have an impact on your application. So do take your time to put together a complete and thorough application. Now from this slide, actually, Erin, you could advance to the next slide and then I'll move over to the website. Okay, so from here, we're actually going to go directly to the website to go over the entrance requirements. So give me 1 second here. So I hope you're seeing the entrance requirement page. Yep, okay, great, for the nursing program. I know many of you are probably very intimately familiar with this page, but many of the frequently asked questions that we get are regarding the entrance requirements. So we want to take this opportunity to go step by step through the requirements so you pretty much have most of your questions answered at the end of this session. Now, today I'm really only going to be focusing on the entrance requirement page. I do encourage you to go through all these other sections listed under nursing. So where it says overview, entrance requirement, advanced placement, cost and supplies. Under courses, you can see exactly which course you'll be taking every term. So please take your time to go through all of those sections. So now coming back to entrance requirements, we have academic and non-academic entrance requirements. So one of the non-academic requirements is a Casper exam. This is an exam that is external. It's not a BCIT exam. It's one that's used internationally for many health programs. I went to the Casper site, and you're going to have to go through a couple of steps to get to where we are right now, but this information is readily available to you from the homepage. There are a number of dates available. So what I wanted to show you are the available dates for the Casper exam. You can see that 2 dates have already gone by, and there's a number of dates in February. And I also want you to notice that the last date for the September 21 intake is April 6th. So you must write your exam prior to that date or beforehand. Now, I encourage you to come to the Casper site at least 2 weeks before you plan to write the exam, even more so if you can. Because if you come up, you can see here in their menu, they've got a lot of resources for you to prepare for the Casper exam. So they have Trust Prep, they have FAQ. Spend your time going through these sections, have a look at some sample questions they have as well. So when the time comes to write the exam, you are going to be quite well prepared. I do also want to mention another important thing that does often come up. The exam that you write for the September intake, if you are not successful in getting a seat and you apply for the January intake, the same results can be used. So you will not be writing the exam again because you can only write it once in an application cycle. However, if you're going to be applying for the April 22 intake, that particular exam is yet not available. So the dates are not up for April, they will be up in the future. And so if you do write the exam now and then you do apply for whatever reason for the April intake, please note you will have to rewrite the Casper exam. So now I'm going to come back to the entrance requirements, please. I'm not going to spend so much time on this British Columbia College of Nurses and Midwives registration requirements, but I do want you to spend time going through all these sections. So this is homework for you. Please go through all these different sections and understand what is required of you to be in this profession. So I'm going to move further down and gives you a little bit of information on the application processing, which we've gone over. Anybody that's online right now, or if that you are aware of as an Indigenous student interested in our program, I would really encourage them to check out this section as well. Now, as we scroll further down, pay attention to where it says competitive entry. So this is going back to where I said there is no wait list. It's a competitive selection process for each particular intake. We have listed here who we give preference to. So if you're looking to find out what more you can do to enhance your application, this will give you an understanding. The most recent selection process that we went through, my understanding is that majority of the applicants had about 60 post-secondary credits and had about a 3.0 post-secondary GPA overall. And if you have any specific questions about that, please post them in the question and answer box. Now, under step 1, or all the academic requirements, the English requirement that's listed here, this is not a particular English 12 or post-secondary English. This is a speaking and listening requirement. So to fulfill this requirement, you would have had to study for 2 years full-time in an English-speaking country. That could be you've completed your high school or you've completed your bachelor's degree in an English-speaking country. And when you click on this hyperlink, it'll take you to a page with more information. It lists the countries that are English-speaking as well. Now, if you did not study in an English-speaking country, that is okay. We do have options available for you. We have assessment exams and courses you can take to fulfill that requirement. Now, the next 2 requirements are at the high school level. So from high school, we require Math 11 or 12, and that's either pre-calculus or foundations, and Chemistry 11. Now, in place of Chemistry 11, you can use Chemistry 12 as well. That's a question that comes up often. And if you didn't take, or if your grades weren't high enough in your high school subjects, but you have post-secondary math and post-secondary chemistry, You can also use those subjects to meet these requirements as well. The only exception for math is that you can't use statistics courses, but multiple other courses are accepted. Now, those are the only two requirements specifically that we look at from high school. The additional requirements we're going to review are post-secondary requirements. So what this means is that if any of you here today are in high school, it means that you won't be applying to our program directly from high school. Your first step is going to complete these post-secondary requirements. So you can expect to attend BCIT or another post-secondary for a minimum 1 year preparing for our program. So as we move forward to the foundation requirements, we've indicated 18 post-secondary credits. So these specific courses add up to 18, but keep in mind what I said earlier, that majority of our applicants that were recently accepted had 60 post-secondary credits. Now, what I also like to mention is that it doesn't mean that you can't apply after you have 18 or after you have 30. At whatever point that you feel that you have a strong application, you should apply, because the number of credits required can vary, or I should say the competitive number of credits can vary from intake to intake. If you have direct healthcare experience, that can enhance your application as well. So now moving to the actual specific courses. So you have to have from post-secondary, English 1177 or its equivalent, a human anatomy and physiology course or its equivalent. That's typically a 2-part course at most institutions. At BCIT, we do offer it in a 15-week format. Psychology or equivalent, and 2 general education electives. And I'll come back to those in a second here. So these courses, they're hyperlinked to the courses that we offer. So you can choose to take these with us if you like. I'm just going to pretend I'm clicking on English and I'm taking you to the page where you could register for our course if you wanted to. Registration for our courses, it's open registration, so no application is required. You can directly register when registration opens. So currently we're in our winter term, but if you look over here in the far right, it says on February 19, the schedule will be online for our spring summer term, which starts in April. And you can start registering as of February 24th into the courses. And so if you scroll down, you can get details on the cost, the days and times. Typically, these courses, or right now, majority of these courses are online. So you can expect to take your class online. The anatomy and physiology course is one that fills up very quickly at BCIT when registration opens for part-time. So if you would like to take that with us, I encourage you to have your student number created well ahead of time and be ready to register at the moment registration opens. Now, if you want to take these courses at another institution, that's completely fine. Many of our students have taken them elsewhere or will be taking them at another post-secondary institution. So we have this equivalent document here, and I'm just gonna, I have it open here. So from this document, you can look to see the equivalents for our courses at other institutions. We have almost all public post-secondaries in BC listed, or I believe we have all, and a couple of out of province as well. So we've listed the equivalent to anatomy and physiology as well, the equivalent to English, and then going further down, the equivalent to psychology as well. So you can see what courses you can take, or if you've taken, you can check to see if they're on this list. If they are not on this list, but you believe they are comparable, you can contact Program Advising, and we will look into another list we have or get in touch with the department to find out if those courses will be acceptable or not. Now, going back to the general education requirement, you're required to have 6 credits, 2 courses typically, at a minimum of 6 credits, in 2 disciplines outside of the nursing profession. So if you review this information, we provide a great deal of information that really helps you choose the appropriate courses. And we provide you with these subjects that you can choose from. As you can see, there's a number of courses that you can choose from to meet this particular requirement. So please spend your time going through this list to have a look to see if, once again, the courses you've taken are here, or if you're planning to take some courses, which ones you could choose. Okay, come back to this page here. So that's the end of the actual formal academic requirements. Once again, the non-academic requirements, we have the Casper test. And then the other one is the mandatory applicant questionnaire. This also needs to be submitted with your application. So this form opens up into a document such as this. Please don't copy and paste into this form, write directly into this form because the boxes can only hold certain characters and they cannot be expanded. So make sure you're writing directly into, or typing, sorry, right into this form. And take your time, be really thorough with your responses. Give information on any type of paid or volunteer experience you have where you have interactions with people, particularly as one of the areas that you want to highlight on this form. So take your time. I tell students, treat it like an essay, do a draft one, a second draft, and then your final draft. Okay, so that's all you need to worry about at this point. Anything under step 2 is something that you don't need to consider until later on if you've been shortlisted for the program. So at this point, I think we'll go back to the presentation, Erin. So just an overview on the application process. Another question that comes up often is, do I need to submit official documents? Yes, you need to submit official transcripts. So that may mean that your school, now many of them will send them electronically to you. So if that's the case, you have it sent to you electronically, you save it as a PDF and you upload it. If that's not the case, in most cases, you still have to request a paper copy. So when you receive your transcript via mail, you have to open up the envelope, you have to scan it or take it a picture of the transcript and save it as a PDF. We've provided instructions on all your options for converting them into PDF on our website under admissions. So these steps, there's no particular steps, but you can work on these in your order, however it works for you. So some of you today may go and start preparing for the Casper exam. Some of you may start working on your mandatory applicant questionnaire. I highly recommend all of you that are planning to apply for September that you contact your schools to get your transcripts because there really isn't a lot of time, so you don't want any delay in not being able to receive your transcript by the deadline date. Everything has to be submitted by the deadline date. One important thing I forgot to mention is that the academic foundation courses must be completed by the deadline date. So there is no option to submit midterm grades. You do need to have those courses fully complete. If for some reason the math and chemistry is outstanding and you can only submit a midterm grade for that, it is only possible for the high school courses. It is not possible for the academic foundation courses. So once you've applied online, it's actually a relatively straightforward application. You can go in and have a look at it now. You can start filling out the boxes. As long as you don't pay the application fee and submit your application, you can keep coming back to the application until you're ready to apply. So once you've submitted your application, it's first going to go to our admissions department. They are just going to ensure that you meet each of the minimum requirements that are outlined for our program. Once they have done that and the deadline date has passed, they are going to move everything over to our nursing selection committee. The nursing department is then going to go through all the complete applications and shortlist based on a rubric that they have. And so the best candidates that they've shortlisted will be called upon for some additional steps, which could possibly be a non-cognitive online quiz. Once students have written that quiz, those results will come back to them, and then they will make a final decision based on all the documents you've submitted, your Casper results, and the non-cognitive quiz and results. The process after the deadline date could take approximately 2 months. And Dina, if you want to clarify that in the chat, that would be great as well. Thank you. And if you have any questions regarding this, please contact us in program advising and we can assist you with that further. Go ahead, Erin. Okay, great. So now we're actually moving on from the academics and a little bit into some of the support services we have at BCIT. I'm actually very proud of our institute. We have many, almost a service for any sort of need a student may have on campus. We're committed at BCIT to ensuring our students succeed not only academically, but also personally as well. We have a student life office dedicated to the well-being of students throughout their course of studies at BCIT. as well as a student association office that is here for you. When you're a student and you don't know where to go or who to go to, one of the first places you can go is our student life office. But there are some supports I'd like to mention that some of you may be interested in knowing more about as a prospective student. So one of them is our Student Financial Aid and Awards Department. If you have questions about student loans and whether you qualify, application deadline dates, you can contact them. They have advisors available to speak to you. And there's also information there up on scholarships, awards, and bursaries. If you have a permanent or temporary disability and will need some assistance while you're a student at BCIT, you can contact our accessibility services, and I recommend contacting them once you've been accepted into your program, but you can definitely start looking into the services ahead of time, and you will meet with them, and then they'll be able to create a plan for you of how they can assist you during your studies at BCIT. And the final service I'd like to mention is our BCIT Indigenous Services Department. They are here to ensure a smooth transition for Indigenous students into their first year and beyond. They offer a peer-to-peer mentorship program, which has been very successful, and a great gathering place, which is really open to all students on campus. Of course, right now that's not the case, but once we are on campus, it's a great place to come for support services. And they also do provide some clarification on Indigenous funding. Many of these services are currently being offered, actually not many, all of the services that we offer at BCIT are still being made available, but they're being made available virtually. Next slide, Erin. All right, so you can connect with us using any one of these options that's listed here. We're available by telephone Monday to Friday. The times vary, so just have a look. I recommend going to bcit.ca/advising for the most up-to-date times. So anything that you have an inquiry, when it's a time-sensitive inquiry, I highly encourage you call us, not to email, because sometimes emails, there can be a delay. But if it's not time-sensitive, send us an email. You can do that any time of the day. And you can also request a Zoom appointment. So we can schedule a Zoom appointment for whatever time and day works for you. And we can discuss any questions that you have. Next page. All right, so if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to sign up or add these social media platforms to your handles. There's so much valuable information. I am quite surprised myself. I have a number of BCIT Instagram pages, Twitter pages that I connect to, and I'm continuously learning about our school and always just amazed by the amazing work our students are doing, and sometimes beyond what I sometimes imagine our students to be capable of. So if you haven't done that, please do connect with all of these platforms. They're really going to help you make an informed decision about your career choice so that you can be confident once the time comes to apply. And I think that ends the formal part of the presentation. And now Erin's going to moderate the questions period. So I'd like to just say thank you. And if you have any questions, please contact us.
Thank you, Maninder. Wow, that was a lot of information we threw at you in the last 40 minutes here. So I know some of you are probably feeling a little bit like, wait, I didn't capture all of that. We will be sending an email out probably Friday afternoon to everyone with a copy of this PowerPoint presentation and with a recording of this session. So if you don't feel like you captured everything, you can kind of review it again once you get that email from us Friday afternoon. And also, as Maninder went through, a lot of this, most of this is on our website, so you can really go through, and we have people you can contact too. Now, I know a lot of you have been posting questions into the chat, and some of them we have been able to answer already, and some of them we haven't gotten to yet. We are madly typing into the chat right now, so rest assured we're doing our best here. So I'm going to choose some questions that might be applying to everybody, and then we can answer some of them out loud. So we're trying to read some of them quickly. Okay, here's one. Lorene, you can help me on this. Ivona is saying, if someone has more than 6 credits of general education, which ones will be used for application GPA calculation?
I think that the admissions officer would take a look at what you have and select the two that are most relevant. And I guess what you're actually asking is, do they look at the ones with the highest GPA? I don't think that that really matters as long as you have met the requirements.
Okay. Someone else is asking, are individuals who have bachelor's degrees given preference?
Those individuals are given preference under post-secondary because you have more than someone that doesn't have a degree, but not necessarily in the end would that person be selected for the program, because we look at other things in the selection.
Okay, and somebody's asking, can we apply with prerequisites in progress? Now, I believe we answered this question already. This person's currently doing her last semester now and wants to apply for September 2021. Lorraine, do you want to answer that again?
No, sorry, you won't be ready. You'll have to wait until January's intake, and those applications will be open from June 1st until July 15th.
Okay, thank you. Another question here, Lorraine, what if we already submitted the mandatory application, but then wanted to make some changes? Can you resubmit that before the application deadline, or is once you do it, you're done?
You can go in at any time up until the application period is closed. So you can add some more information or submit a new questionnaire if you like.
Great. Okay, there's a few questions here that we've already answered, so I'm just skipping over some of those. Someone is asking, is there a formal interview included in the application process?
No, at BCIT in the nursing program and in most of our health programs, as far as my understanding is, that we do not do face-to-face interviews. So this is why we ask for your questionnaire to be filled out, all of your transcripts to be complete and submitted at the application deadline, and then we take a look at everything submitted and make our decisions based on that.
Okay. Oh, questions keep moving around here. I'm going to answer this one too, Lorraine. If I don't get accepted for the fall intake, would I get a chance to get accepted for the winter intake?
Unfortunately, no, because the application period is already passed. So you would apply for the April class.
And just to add to that, you do have to apply again, right, Lorraine? Like you can't
Correct.
just carry over your application. You just submit a brand new application each time you do.
Correct, because it's a competition. It's an individual competition for each intake.
Great. Someone is asking, can you apply with only having 18 credits of post-secondary?
You can, as long as those 18 credits are the ones that are required. However, more than likely you would not be very competitive and unfortunately not be considered for the class, because typically our successful students that we bring into the program have usually about 2 years of post-secondary. It's about 60 credits. So you have to do some more stuff, I think, and then apply again.
An interesting question from Prem. What if you meet the post-secondary course requirements, but you don't meet the high school requirements?
You have to meet all of the requirements by the application deadline. So the only high school requirements are chemistry and math. So if you know that, you'll now have to spend this term finding a course, and then you'll be eligible once you finish it, maybe by maybe not by June, but probably for the October opening of the applications for next April.
And we have some questions about how we go ahead and take Math 11 and Chemistry 11 if we didn't do them before. Now, most school districts, your local community school district, do have these courses online, and sometimes you can even take them for free. So check continuing education from your school district if you have high school courses you didn't take in high school that you'll need to take now. Anything to add to that, Lorraine?
No, that sounds fabulous, Erin.
Getting the hang of these things here, guys. On average, how many applicants do we receive per intake? That's a good question, Caitlin.
Typically, we get the most applications for the September intake, and probably 300 to 400 applications we're expecting this time.
So just remember, she said most applications come for September, so that would make September more competitive than maybe other intakes.
Then April.
Something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, here's another question for Lorene. If I am not selected, will BCIT write an explanation why I wasn't chosen?
For those candidates that apply to the program, you will be given information by the selection committee on how to maybe request information, or it will be actually very self-explanatory once you've completed the selection process.
And would this affect my eligibility to reapply again?
No, you can apply back to the program again. However, we do strongly suggest that you apply with a different application. So make sure that you are improving it as you go along.
Here's a question. Is work as a kinesiologist working with ICBC rehabilitation patients taken as relevant work experience?
I'm going to say more than likely yes, but what I would strongly suggest is that with your application, you also submit like a bit of a sort of like a resume to let us know specifically what you do within that role, and then we can take into consideration your kinesiology experience.
Great. A lot of questions here. I'm just going through some of these.
Yes, there's 114 still in the Q&A.
Wow. I can't actually see that number on my screen right now, so thanks, Lorene.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, here's a question. Lorene, can you please give us a sense of what the 4 NCQ, that's non-cognitive questionnaire, questions will look like? Are they like the Casper in that you lay out a scenario and expect us to respond to the scenario?
No, it's like they're more like interview style questions. And if you are shortlisted to the program, we would be sending you some information that you could refer to as resources.
Great. Maninder, did you have something to add? You're on mute, Maninder.
That mute button. I have a question that's come up a couple of times. If Lorraine, you could speak to it. People are wondering if they can address their life experiences in the mandatory applicant questionnaire. So if they've taken care of a ill family member for over some time.
Sure, absolutely. So in the mandatory questionnaire, there's a section like a comment box. That would be something. It says something like, "Is there anything else that you would like to tell us about to get you into the program," or something like that. But absolutely, in that area, please let us know what you've been doing. And if you needed some more space, you know, and you had something, not everybody, please, because there's only a few people like this, but you could maybe submit an extra page and explain it a bit further if it was healthcare related or family member situation. That's fine.
Oh, and we did answer how many applications we get. We didn't, I don't know if any point during this we said how many students we accept per intake.
Yes, I answered that.
Okay.
But it was such a long time ago. It's 64 students each intake.
Great, thank you. I know it's been a lot of information we've been throwing at you guys, so I know it's hard to kind of keep track of everything, but that's why we'll let you review some of the stuff afterwards when we send you those emails. Okay.
There's somebody here, Erin, that is asking, sent by Anonymous, what's the average GPA from the last intake? Most people that are accepted into our program have a 3.0 or higher, and many people do have healthcare related paid work experience. I think for the volunteer experience, someone is asking, what do we suggest, whether they can volunteer for high school students? I think that Shelley said something in her presentation about, during COVID, it's probably going to be a bit challenging for people to get some volunteer experience, but I would just still suggest to try and, maybe there's some community centers that are going to be opening up soon. You could put your name in at, your local hospital or care home. And of course, right now, they probably are not accepting volunteers, but they might, and considering you are asking this as a high school student, you do have a little ways to go before you're going to be ready to apply to our program. So by then, hopefully COVID will be done and they will be looking at filling up some volunteer spaces.
Great, thank you. I have a question regarding other nursing institutions and transferring. Now, where did that question go? There it is. Is there a possibility to transfer from another nursing institution? If not, is it possible to transfer any courses while starting the program at BCIT from scratch? And I also have a question about LPNs and whether or not they start the program at the beginning. So if you want to address those questions, Lorraine.
Okay, so LPNs start at the beginning of our program. Transfer credits from other nursing programs. No, there's no transferring from one nursing program to another or to BCIT, because our courses are not set up like that. So we don't have any way to look at what you've done previously. You would have to start our program from the beginning. The other thing that, and it may certainly not apply to anyone here, but it has applied to people in the past, is that they want to leave a program, particularly in the Lower Mainland, and transfer to BCIT. And our first question is, how come? Like, why would you want to do that when you're already in a program? So we would strongly suggest that you just stay where you're at and finish the program that you were first accepted into, because you do have to start with us at the beginning.
Thank you. Here's another question, another anonymous. What percentage of graduates are able to find a job right after graduation?
100%. Shelley? Nod your head, yes.
Yeah, the prospects are very good. Depending on what the student wants. Some students want full-time work, some want part-time with flexibility, but the prospects are very good.
Somebody's asking, do we apply through EduPlanner BC or is it on the BCIT site? Correct me if I'm wrong, it is on the BCIT site. You click the Apply Now button on the program page and you apply through BCIT. Oh, here's a good question from Sarah. Would adding in a reference letter make my application stronger?
We do not ask for reference letters. So if you provide it, more than likely we will read it, but we do not request them. And I know that might sound awful, but when you have 400 applications and if everybody's submitting 1 or 2 reference letters, you can imagine reading all of the mandatory questionnaires, reviewing all of your transcripts, because lots of people go to several post-secondary institutes. And then if everybody submits 2 reference letters, it does take quite some time. And we actually want to get to complete the process so that we can let you guys know who's been accepted. And of course, we don't ask for them.
Okay, I'm going to answer one here about specialty nursing specifically. It says, where can I find information regarding admission requirements for the specialty nursing programs? Now, I'm going to say right off the bat that to get into specialty nursing, you do have to be an existing RN. So you have to be working currently or have current licensure with as an RN. But all that information can be found on our website. If you just type in BCIT specialty nursing, you can look up the information there. Shelley, did you have something to add to that? You're on mute.
Nope, exactly right on.
So specialty nursing is a great thing to pursue once you complete a Bachelor of Science in Nursing and are working in the field. Here's a tough one. How much is the total cost for the tuition fee? Do we happen to have a ballpark figure? Because the tuition fees do increase a little bit every year, so we don't necessarily have what intake you would be applying for and what the cost would be at that point. But Lorraine, do we happen to have a ballpark?
My office partner is saying $25,000, and that does include scrubs and shoes and books and everything.
Okay, but for specific amounts, please do check the BCIT website because it does change annually, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Tanya is asking, are vaccinations mandatory in order to apply for the nursing program?
Okay, vaccinations are not mandatory. However, you could limit yourself in where we can place you, because the hospitals and the health authorities do have some requirements, so we have to go on what they say. However, if you're not vaccinated, then you can still apply to the program and we'll help you out. But again, in the past, some people have been limited to where they can go. Shelley, do you have any further information?
Yeah, I would just add that when you start your clinical placements, they're in health authorities across the province, and they have specific regulations about who can come in and work on the clinical units. So that's what I think Lorraine is referring to. They do have the authority to say that you must come vaccinated or you must wear a mask if you're not vaccinated, and it's very specific. So we have to follow their guidelines.
Okay, someone is asking, is the application deadline just to submit the general application, as in the non-cognitive test would be after the deadline? Yes, I believe the non-cognitive test would be after, because isn't that only for shortlisted applicants, Maureen?
Yes, that's correct.
So you would be contacted if you need to do the non-cognitive test. You don't need to do that right off the bat.
Yeah, after the applications are closed, then within the next few months, you will be notified whether you're in the program, whether you're shortlisted. If you're a shortlisted candidate, that means you go on to the next step in the application process. And in that time, that's when we invite you to write your non-cognitive quiz, which is graded, and it is part of the selection process. And then every person will find out their final status by the end of June, somewhere around mid to end of June.
Okay, it is 1 o'clock now, so we're going to shut this down soon, but I do have one or two more questions I want to get to that I think are a little bit general. Stacy is asking, do students find they can handle a part-time job while going through the program? Should one expect to be in class most of the day, every weekday, keeping work in evenings or weekends?
So I'll say what I'm going to say, and then Shelley, you can chime in. On our website, under frequently asked questions, we do answer that a little bit in there. We don't recommend that you work while going to through nursing. However, we do understand that the majority of people do have part-time jobs. School comes first. Please don't ask for a specific type of schedule or anything like that to accommodate your work, because it can't happen. And so therefore, it's best to keep your part-time work to the weekends, as in the first couple of years of the program. you won't be required to be in clinical on the weekends, but that could change at any time through our program and specifically for the 3rd year of the program. Do you have anything to add, Shelley?
Just that you also get breaks. So over the summertime, you're not in school, so you could work and potentially sort of over Christmas period and April break as well.
Good point.
Because we completely understand the financial pressures people are under, and we don't want that to be an impediment. There's also financial assistance that I think you could check out. So don't let that be something that turns you away from applying.
Okay, and one final question. Is there a 5-year recency requirement for the academic prerequisites?
The only recency is for the anatomy and physiology, which is 3 years.
Thank you. That's a good question because that varies depending on which program at BCIT you're looking at. So you really need to check the program you're applying to. Yeah. Okay, and we have gone over our allotted time. I realize there are so many questions still in the chat. And that is why I urge everyone who's not getting their question answered right now to email program_advising@bcit.ca. Or as mentioned earlier, there was a phone number for program advising. If you just go online and type in BCIT program advising, you'll get all their contact information there. But I just wanted to put this email address up on screen for you. Again, as I mentioned earlier, on Friday afternoon, you should all receive an email that will contain a copy of this PowerPoint slide deck and a recording of this session so that you can review things you might have missed. And again, sorry we weren't able to get all your questions today. It is a lot for us to go through on our end. Lorene has one more comment.
Yeah, as we're trying to keep up with the incoming questions here, we just want to make sure that everyone that is hoping to write their Casper test, the one on April 6th is the final time you can write in order to be eligible for consideration to the September class. So Casper, the final time for September's intake is April 6th. Please go to the Casper website. It was sent to you and it's also posted on the BSN website. Go to their website to review and understand everything to sign up for the upcoming tests. So April 6th is the final one.
Thank you. That was important to mention, Lorene. Thanks. Okay, and with that, I want to thank you all for attending and best of luck to all of you. Goodbye.